Welcome to the third video in this AutoCAD training series. In this video, we will cover section 1.1.3 in the written material. If you have not completed this section of the written material, please go do so now. Let's start by reviewing the status bar. The status bar is located in the bottom right-hand corner of AutoCAD, right here. Let's go over some of the most used tools on the status bar, starting with polar tracking, or F10, right here. Polar tracking allows you to accurately and quickly draw common angles without entering them manually. For instance, right now, it's allowing me to draw 45-degree angles and 90-degree angles. Now, I can still draw any angle that I want, but my cursor will snap to 45 degrees very accurately and quickly. All right, let's move on to F8, or ortho. Now, you might have noticed as I turned ortho on, polar tracking turned off. These two cannot be on at the same time, but you can very quickly, as you can see, switch between them. Ortho does not allow you to draw any line except for one at 90 degrees. All right, F6, or dynamic UCS. Dynamic UCS will not be covered in this course, so please just make sure that it's turned off. Object Snap Tracking, or F11. Object Snap Tracking is the green dashed line you see after you have scrubbed a point, and it allows you to use existing objects, or more particularly the points on the objects, as guides. It's very useful for aligning many points together without having them actually snap to the same point. Now let's move on to Dynamic Input, located right here on the status bar. Dynamic input is a very useful tool that allows you to enter both the length and the angle of lines. You can now see that you can enter the length, let's call it 100, and then hit tab, and then it locks the length, and I can set the angle to whatever I want by typing it in. There you go, we now have a line 100 units long, 30 degrees off of a line parallel to the x-axis. Before I go any farther, let's talk about selection sets. Now you've probably noticed the green box and the blue box appearing. The blue is called window and green is called crossing. They allow you to select objects in different ways. The blue allows you to select any objects that are inside the selection box set. The green selects any objects that it touches. Let's move on to the two different coordinate systems within AutoCAD. There's absolute coordinates and relative coordinates. Absolute coordinates are on by default, and whenever you enter the numbers in, or the coordinates, then by default it's going to be that distance from the origin. Relative coordinates are relative to the first point that you enter in. If dynamic input is on, then the second point is always going to be a relative. And if dynamic input is off, then the second point will be absolute. As an example, let's draw the box for exercise 1.1.3. So there is the first point. Now with dynamic input on, we can just enter the next point and it will be measured off of the first point, not off of the origin. But just for explanation's sake, let's say that dynamic input is off. So how do you enter the second point to make it relative to the first point without doing a whole bunch of math to see what the actual distance is from the origin? To do this, you put the @ symbol, and that tells AutoCAD to make it relative. There's our box. Let's work a little bit more on exercise 1.1.3. So you want to draw a line that is 60 degrees. So you have dynamic input on. You don't care about the length. So just enter tab. Then you want it to be 60 degrees. The reason that that line did not go to 60 degrees is because you have to remember that it's measured off of the x-axis. Now, once you have it to the box, okay, it's sticking out, it's too long. So how do you fix this? If you hover over the line, there's stretch and lengthen. Stretch allows you just to move the line and it remains constant from the first point that you entered. But that would mess up the angle, so is there a better option? Yes. You can lengthen the line, or it's really shortening, but shorten the line to where it intersects. And there you go. That's how you draw that line. Now you are ready to complete exercise 1.1.3. When you've completed that, go and read the next section of the written material. See you then.